guys, welcome back to the Turo 100 series, where I am making 100 videos going over every single aspect of Turo that you need to know about to make sure that if you are getting your feet wet and joining the platform, that you know exactly what you're doing and so that it maintains a profitable status for your business. That is the key, is that we want to make money, right? So I've been doing this for 9 years and I'll be teaching you guys everything that I know. Now, in today's episode, we are going to go over, is it legal to actually share your car on a platform like Turo? And what are some of the regulations and insurance coverage policy stipulations that you need to know about so that you're not in violation, so that you don't get dropped by insurance companies or that your cars don't get repossessed because maybe in some of your contracts you are not allowed to car share. So we're going to break down all of that. It's a very commonly asked question, and we're going to go over exactly how Turo states what potential liability you might be looking at and how exactly to go about it. So let's dive in. Of course, with any new technology, like when Uber first came out or Airbnb first came out, there can be a lot of gray area, but that is just what innovation is, in my opinion. But it's really good to be informed as a host exactly as to what you can do, what you can't do, where your potential liability will be. So sharing your car, especially as a US host, is what we're going to go over, and we're going to go over it exactly as Turo states it. So the very first thing that they have on their website, and I really do love how proactive they are about it, is we know of no law in any state that says it's illegal to share your car, but suggests you check to see if your state has car sharing regulations in place. Then they actually have an entire article, both of which I'm going to link down in the description below, that is going to allow you to go through every single state so that you can take a look at what type of regulation might exist. Because there are a few states that do have some very specific regulations. For example, in Alaska, if your vehicle is registered in the state of Alaska and located in Anchorage, a city ordinance purports to require Turo to collect from guests an 8% vehicle sharing tax on the gross transaction amount for trips which a Turo host qualifies as a retail business. So if you are hosting out of Alaska, especially in Anchorage, that means your guests are going to be paying a little bit more, and it's something that you need to be aware of because it will potentially affect your pricing strategy, as we talked about in the previous video. So this is something that you want to keep in mind. So for all of my hosts who are thinking about joining or in different states, you want to go through this article, again, linked down below, to make sure that you don't have any issues that you're going to run into with your state and that you are operating exactly as you should be. So now, really, in my opinion, a lot of the gray area comes when it comes to insurance and your coverage and your liability, and that's typically the questions that most people have. So as it's stated by Turo, we don't expect your insurer to cover losses that occur while your car is being shared, right? So your personal insurance coverage that you might have on your cars, which is what most people have, right? Because what most people are doing on the platform is, hey, I have a car that maybe I'm not utilizing as often as I would like, so I'm going to rent it out sometimes, right? So therefore, it's your personal car, you're maintaining your personal coverage on it, but your personal insurance provider is not going to cover you if something happens to the car while it's out on a trip for Turo. However, that is the reason why Turo offers multiple layers of protection so that you are covered for any kind of damage that occurs. So protection plans made available by Turo provide up to $750,000 in third-party liability insurance, except in some states and some airports that require additional coverage. This includes vehicles in the state of New York, where the liability coverage is $1.25 million, right? So they have to provide a little bit more. Now, in a series that's going to come up later on down the road, we are going to go over all the host protection plans and exactly what that means for you as a host and what protection plan you should be on to really minimize any liability possible. But this is just for the third-party liability, meaning if there is any third-party damage, right? It's not you, it's not your guest, but your guest damages somebody else's property, then you have up to $750,000 in third-party coverage. So that's how the third-party coverage works. Now, the third-party coverage is provided under a policy issued to Turo by Travelers Excess and Surplus Lines Company. So essentially, Travelers is the provider of this coverage. Back in the day, it used to be Liberty Mutual. And so, things change over time. It doesn't matter so much as long as you know how much liability coverage you have. Now, protection plans can also contractually provide for reimbursement for physical damage to your vehicle, which is not insurance. When a trip is booked in the state of Washington, physical damage to the host vehicle is covered by insurance purchased by Turo. Turo's insurance does not change the contractual responsibilities of host or guest with respect to physical damage to a host vehicle. Basically, what they are saying here in layman's terms is the Turo host protection plans that they offer is technically not considered insurance, but if you are a host and you've been doing this, then it essentially acts like insurance, right? But we just cannot technically call it that. It's just a protection plan. So basically what Turo is saying, when you opt into one of their host protection plans, and they have about 5 of them, which we will go over, it is essentially going to provide you X amount of coverage. So whenever your car is out on a trip and something happens to it, they are going to cover you as long as it all falls within the parameters of whichever plan you are on. So I'm just going to give you a very quick example so that you know what I'm talking about. Most hosts are on Turo's 75% plan. The 75% plan means that you are giving Turo 25% of your day rate when a transaction happens. So when somebody rents out your car, if your car is being rented out for $100 per day, you are going to give Turo $25 out of the $100, you will keep $75. Now, in exchange, what that means is if anything happens during the trip, right, and it falls within their parameters of coverage, you are only responsible for a $250 deductible, because that is a deductible assigned to your host protection plan. So let's just say, your renter causes $5,000 worth of damage. You, as the host, regardless of the renter being at fault, are still responsible for the $250 deductible, and anything above that, Turo will take care of. Now, there is a lot of nuance here, which is why we'll do an entirely separate video on this, but a lot of people really cannot understand why the host has to pay the deductible even though the renter is at fault. And all I can say in very short is that is just what the Turo system is. There is, some rhyme and reason to it, but that's just how the platform operates. So you just have to get used to it, right? There's no justifying it. There's really no way around it. It is what it is. Every host protection plan, other than the 60%, has a deductible, and you're responsible for that regardless of who is at fault. But beyond your deductible, Turo will cover everything. So it's just a little nugget I'm going to throw out there for you guys to munch on, and we'll dive deeper into it. And I know that the host community really struggles with this one, but listen, I've been doing this for 9 years. It is what it is. That's how it works. And you just account for it in your cost of doing business and your operations, right? So you just want to make sure you are always prepared. Now, let's move on to the next piece, which is check the terms of any lease or financing agreements to ensure they don't prohibit your participation in car sharing. Furthermore, many states have laws preventing subleasing. While we don't believe car sharing would violate unlawful subleasing laws, there's no guarantee that all law enforcement would agree. Okay, this is a really spicy, juicy one when it comes to sharing your car legally. Most finance and leasing contracts will now explicitly state that you cannot utilize your vehicle for car sharing. So technically, if you're financing and leasing and that is in your contract and you are sharing your car, you're not supposed to, right? But do most people do it? Yes, they do. Should you do it? Well, that's to your discretion, and it's all about if you want to take on that risk or not. But it's very important to know what you are signing up for, right? And what the potential repercussions could be. Now, I have heard in the past, I've never known anybody that this has happened to personally in the thousands and thousands of hosts that I've spoken to, but I've heard in the past people say that, oh, So, my leasing or financing company found out that I was car sharing, and so they repossessed my vehicle. Now, I cannot confirm whether or not that's true because I haven't seen it happen in real life. I've never known anybody that it's happened to, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. So just something to consider. But now there are actually brands such as BMW who will do special financing contracts for cars that are going to be utilized for car sharing or ride sharing, which is Uber, and things like that. So you might end up paying a little bit more, but if you are really dead set on operating in a very black and white manner where you are not doing anything that can be questioned, then you want to look for these cars that have financing or leasing contracts like that through brands like BMW, or then you will most likely be buying your cars outright, or maybe you are working with a dealership that doesn't have that type of stipulation in their contracts, right? So just something to consider. Do most people do it? Yes, they do, because the reality is most people are just using their personal vehicles to then rent out on the side when they're not utilizing them. So that's where the gray area in kind of these new technologies really exist, and people operate within them anyways, taking on that risk, but no risk, no reward. That's just kind of how it goes. And so it's all on you to figure out whether or not you are comfortable with it. So something to just put out there and really kind of register in your mind when you are going through the buying or leasing process. All right, the next stipulation is hosts who share a vehicle with a lien against it should check the terms of their contract with the lien holder to ensure listing on Turo does not violate the contract terms. And then finally, your insurer's response. This is an important one. To car sharing will depend on their policies and the laws of the state in which your car is registered. If your insurer has concerns, we believe you should be able to remove your vehicles from Turo and retain your personal auto insurance coverage. Okay, what the heck does that mean? That basically what they're saying is most personal insurance, automotive insurance providers, right? So your Geicos, your Mercuries, your Progressives, all the main ones out there, they are usually not cool with the fact that they are providing you insurance coverage for your personal use vehicle, and then you're taking that vehicle and you're utilizing it on a platform like Turo, which they would then consider commercial use. And so oftentimes I have heard in the past, it has never happened to me, when somebody is renting out their personal car and their insurance provider finds out, they will either drop you from your policy or they'll kind of threaten you and say, hey, you have to get your car off the platform in order to retain your insurance. So that's often why a lot of people will eventually at some point in time end up opening up a business entity like an LLC, registering their cars under the company, and then getting commercial insurance. Again, because this industry is so new, there aren't that many amazing solutions for insurance, especially when it comes to commercial insurance, to where it's affordable and it makes sense mathematically to run this business, but that is something that people will utilize. And then finally, if you receive any indication that your insurance is in jeopardy, let us know. We'll take it up with your insurer and potentially with your state's insurance regulator, which I do think that that's really cool that Turo offers that. The fact that they are willing to help you. I don't know anyone that's had to go through this, but at least now you're informed and educated enough to know if you run into any issues, you can reach out to Turo and they will help you. So as you can see, there are a lot of nuances here when it comes to legality and regulations, and again, like I said, it kind of just goes with the nature of new technology and innovation, right? There aren't that many guidelines and rules set in place because technology moves a lot faster than regulation and laws do. And that is why we have innovation, right? That is why we have people who, come onto the scene like a Steve Jobs or, the founders of Uber or, crypto, whatever you want to point out, right? We can develop innovation and technology much faster than it can be regulated. So it takes time. And unfortunately, in that process, there are casualties, right? There are some people who end up in positions that were a little bit too risky and then they have to pay the consequences. But these platforms, they continue to kind of truck along. They definitely have arms within the company that are for, government relations, where they're out, lobbying and working with legislators and cities and states to pass these laws to make it easier because, of course, the easier it is for a host to run their business on the platform, the better it is for Turo, right? At the end of the day, their only goal is to make money. So they're going to do whatever they can to make it easier for the everyday person who has a car that they are not utilizing as much as they like to list on the platform and then rent out. So again, I'm going to put all of these car sharing links down in the description below so that you can read through them, and then we'll do a little bit more of a deeper dive in the upcoming episodes about how insurance works. Now, in the meantime, if you want to get more information much faster, because it's going to take me a while to roll out this 100 series project that I'm working on here to teach you guys about everything I've learned, I do have a full kind of training catalog that I've developed throughout the years. It's available on my website, powerhost.club, so you can check it out. Again, links are down below. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, drop them below and I will help you guys out with anything related to Turo, and I'll catch you in the next episode.